Hello everybody, I'm Susie Dingle and I'm a conductor, and along with Katrina Gordon I am caithnessmusic.com. We make up caithnessmusic.com. And we'd like to welcome everybody to this project, Pictures at an Exhibition, that we've developed with the Scottish Chamber Orchestra this year. We decided that we needed to do something because of all the lockdown restrictions. We're not allowed to gather together to make music either for our junior orchestra that we run here in Caithness or our adult orchestra, the Caithness Orchestra. And so we thought we should do something to keep everybody playing together, and that's why we've come up with this project. Katrina's made some amazing arrangements of the music so that you can all join in. The original Ravel parts are there for more experienced players, though in slightly easier keys, I think, most of the time. And then we've made some parts for learner players as well. So every week you can choose which parts you want to play for the pieces that are being released weekly. You don't have to stick with the same part for the whole project. You might see in some weeks that you think you want to have a go at a violin 2 part, for instance, and other weeks you might look at it and think that's too hard, I'm going to do violin 3, which is a learner part, for instance, but that's entirely up to you. So every week we're releasing these videos. The Scottish Chamber Orchestra have recorded videos, a small group of players from the Scottish Chamber Orchestra have recorded videos for you to practice with. And Katrina and I and Fiona, Katrina's twin, we've just made some videos as well of the learner parts along with the Scottish Chamber Orchestra so that you can practice those more easily because they're quite tricky sometimes, okay? Each week we'll release videos, we'll release music for you, and you can practice. And this will happen for 10 weeks this term. Then in the new year, we'll release a new set of videos which we'll be recording in December, and the funding that we can manage to raise is going to define how many musicians we manage to have for those videos. So I hope that we'll have a reasonably sized orchestra of Scottish Chamber Orchestra players, and I'll be making some rehearsal videos with them, which we'll release in a similar way in the new year, so you can practice in more detail what goes on in the music. So it's all very exciting, and then in April, if we're allowed, if COVID restrictions allow us, we're hoping to get together a huge orchestra here in Caithness to play the whole thing one day in April. Whether we're allowed to do that or not, we're definitely going to be releasing a video of the whole thing, which you can play along with the Scottish Chamber Orchestra players online. But we hope we're going to be able to get together in April actually in person. We can't wait to be able to play with other people again. We've been really missing it over the last 6 months, so it's a really, really big, exciting thing to look forward to. So the music we've chosen, Pictures at an Exhibition, it's a series of small pieces of music, 15 of them in total, and they were written by a Russian composer called Modest Mussorgsky, and he was born in about the first half of the 19th century in a city south of St. Petersburg in the region of Pskov. And when he was 10, he was sent to St. Petersburg to go to school. He was sent away from his family to go to school at the age of 10. And he was already quite a good musician by then. So he went to quite a posh school in St. Petersburg, and then 3 years later he entered the Army Cadet School, which was where lots of people went, and he became a member of the very elite Preobrazhensky Guard, which was the guard that looked after the Tsar in those days. So he became a soldier. Later on, he became a civil servant. He was actually an amateur musician. He's a really famous composer, but he was an amateur musician. He made his living from doing other things. And you can find out all sorts of stuff about him. You can go and Google Mussorgsky. It's spelled Mussorgsky. It's quite a difficult word to say. And you'll find out lots and lots of things about him. He was friends with lots of other composers in Russia at the time, and he made a group with some others called the Mighty Handful. And in Russian, that's Magucha Kuchka. Sounds quite cool, doesn't it? Magucha Kuchka means the Mighty Handful. There were 5 of them, and they're quite famous composers as well. Rimsky-Korsakov and Borodin and Balakarev and Cesar Cui, and they wrote lots and lots of music at the time. And most of them had other jobs as well. I think Borodin was a chemist. I think Rimsky-Korsakov was maybe an engineer in the army as well. So they all had other jobs. I think it's quite nice that we're talking about an amateur musician here, because this project is aimed at people who are not professional musicians to join in with. So children in our junior orchestras and adults who play in community orchestras around the country, indeed around the world. We're hoping lots and lots of people are going to join in with this. The more of you, the better. And we hope that you will send us lots of pictures of you rehearsing, send us questions about the music, send us videos of you playing, and I hope you're going to come up with some interesting responses to some challenges I'm going to set you during the course of the project as well. This first week, the tunes we're looking at are Promenade 1 and the Gnome. So the piece is called Pictures at an Exhibition because it's inspired by paintings. Mussorgsky had a friend called Victor Hartmann who was an architect and artist, and he died very sadly, quite young. I think he was only about 39 when he died. And Mussorgsky was quite upset about this, and he went to an exhibition, a posthumous exhibition of his work, and he was inspired by some of the pictures there. In fact, he owned 2 of the pictures there. We'll come on to them later in the project. And he was inspired to write these pieces of music. He chose 10 pictures in particular, and he wrote a suite for piano. In between the 10 pictures, he wrote 5 promenades, which are about walking around the exhibition. I don't know if any of you have ever been to an exhibition. I'm sure all the adult participants will have been to an exhibition at some point, but maybe some of our younger participants haven't had a chance to go to an art gallery or an exhibition, or maybe you have. But you can go and look at a lot of galleries online, and you could do that and see what it's like to see all the pictures in the big halls. So our first movement is called Promenade, and it's about walking around the gallery. And it's quite tricky because the time signature changes. Sometimes there are 5 beats in the bar, sometimes there are 6. I've got a little mini conductor challenge for you, this one. You can practice walking around, counting 5 and then 6. So you could walk 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which is how it goes, all right? And it's quite helpful to practice doing that so you get used to that change of meter, okay? So that's a little challenge for you there. The second movement we're looking at this week is called the Gnome. And this was a drawing which has disappeared. We don't know what's happened to it. It no longer exists. But we know from a critic called Stasov, who was at the exhibition with Mussorgsky and who was a friend of Mussorgsky's, that it was a design for a nutcracker. I don't know about you, but we have nutcrackers in the house that come out at Christmas when we've got those big bowls of whole walnuts and things like that. And so nutcrackers come in different designs. Sometimes they've got ratchets on them, sometimes they're just open legs that open and shut like that, and you crack the nuts in them. Anyway, this was a design for a nutcracker. And it was a design in the shape of a gnome. And Stasov describes the gnome as a little gnome clumsily running around on his crooked legs. I think he's a bit of a sad character maybe. He's a bit creepy, maybe a little bit unhappy. But we don't really know. And what I'd like to challenge you to do this week is to draw your idea of what the gnome looks like. Listen to the music. You can listen to the whole thing online. If you go onto YouTube, you'll be able to find lots and lots of recordings of it. Go and listen to it and see what you think the gnome looked like. And then you can send me in your drawings or paintings of what you think this gnome could look like. All right, so we want some pictures for our exhibition, if you like. You can send me those in, and we can't wait to see them. You can share them on the Caithness Music page, or you can share them on the Scottish Chamber Orchestra Facebook page, or you can email them to connect@sco.org.uk, and they'll share them for you if you don't do Facebook, which is obviously okay, all right? If you send them to us, then you're giving us permission to share your pictures, okay? So we hope you'll have lots and lots of fun. And I'll see you every week. I'll be sending you a shorter video in future weeks because I won't have to tell you so much about the project, but a little challenge each week, a little bit of information about the music, and we hope you'll have lots and lots of fun. Bye!